Hey guys, sorry,
It's
I
All
was
it's
right.
a smiley
on
Melanie.
another.
The Three
Yeah,
Musketeers. At
There you go.
yeah.
least we're not the three
Ah,
blind mice, right? I
What?
forgot my computer glasses. All I have are these, but when I put these on, I can't see it's like just got this blurriness to it.
I hate that when I do that.
Yeah, so this is me without glasses. All right, so I got two things we're going to deal with. One is what do you do when you have a tenant who wants to add to the lease? What if I lose my job? We don't really have that in the VRLTA lease, but what I do have is, let me share this.
Where is everybody?
It's the last week of August. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Um,
what school
so
starts next week in
yeah, it
Fairfax
does, doesn't it? I
County?
believe so, yeah.
Oh, does it really?
Oh,
The first week of September?
Oh, it's before. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They moved away from
Labor Day?
the after
Well,
Labor Day a couple of
yeah.
years ago. Yeah. All right. So in the lease, this is the lease here. And in paragraph 24, there's early termination of occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just kind of look at this as what can people do? One is if it's uninhabitable. If a condition exists in premises at the beginning of the lease term, which constitutes a fire hazard or serious threat to life, health, or safety of tenant or tenant's occupants, tenant may provide written notice to landlord or tenant to terminate lease within 7 days of either the lease start date or the expected date of transfer of possession of premises to tenant. Okay. So it's a fire hazard, life, health, or safety. We also have um, the form for tenants, which is the residential property disclosures. No, not that one. I don't have it in here, but it is the form for rentals. It's the rights and responsibilities of tenants that deals with mold as well. And there's
Mhm.
ways that landlords have to move on mold and things such as that when it comes to if they don't fix it, they're opening themselves up to the tenant canceling. So they've got 7 days on this one from the start date to get out if and this is where you could say, you've got mold, you got to get this done or I'm out of here. And then the tenant will be entitled to terminate the lease and receive a full refund. The landlord's got 15 days. So that's one there. The other one is when a service member covered by the Service Member Civil Relief Act, which is the
Mhm.
military, the State Department, um, when they are transferred more than 50 miles away, then they can give an early termination notice. So I'll let you go through this at a later date. But when they get orders to move, they have to move quickly to get that into the landlord, let them know I'm being transferred to Georgia and here's what's going on. And then they have down here how that works. Okay. The other is transfer of all other tenants. It's a non SCRA transfer, like their company's transferring them more than 50 miles. So it covers the same thing. Now, what we were talking about is, well, what if they lose their job? So I've taken this transfer of all other tenants paragraph and I have put it into the addendum for sale, but we're just going to use it for addendum of lease. And job loss of tenants is what I'm calling it. And I've rewritten really just the first sentence. Okay. Tenants who experience job loss, and I added, and are not able to reemploy within 30 days will reserve the option to terminate this lease. So it's still an option. They don't have to terminate it, but it's with an option. And then I'm leaving the rest of it from that transfer of how that termination will work. So the termination will be effective on the last day of the second calendar month following the month in which a landlord receives the notice of termination. So you could change this to the first calendar month following the month. So I lose my job today. All right. Let's say I've already been in it and today is August 7th and I lose my job. And over the weekend, I give the landlord, hey, I lost my job. So I've got 30 days to see if I can get another job. And if not, then the next 30 days I'll be out of here. Okay.
Mhm.
So the termination will be effective on the last day of the second calendar month. That's 30 days for me through August 7th to get through. If I can't get a job, then I'm giving 30 days notice. Following the month in which the landlord receives the notice of termination, tenant will provide a copy of the tenant's transfer letter. So I would say the tenant's
Termination letter,
termination letter. Thank you.
because you don't
Employment.
want, that shouldn't apply if somebody just quit their job.
Right. And thank you, Sherry is our HR expert. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. That was her field of expertise. So notice of termination. I'm going to say termination of lease because we're saying a lot of terminations here. And then maybe put this in a second paragraph. Tenant will provide a copy of tenant's employment termination letter and or orders, letter period. The final month's rent and the following termination or cancellation fee. 1 month's rent if tenant has completed fewer than 6 months of the tenancy as of the effective date of termination, or 2, 1/2 of 1 month's tenant rent if tenant has completed 6 months or more. It's the same language that's in the I'm being transferred. The challenge that some tenants may have is like, yeah, but I just lost my job. I don't have this extra money. That might be part of it. I don't know. I'm just giving some language to work here. And I'm going to put this in the conversation chat.
You
Y'all
know, I'm
yeah,
wondering if they would actually add this type of paragraph in the lease
Mhm.
as it is now, because I don't know that a lot of landlords would agree to this, even though it's
Right.
happening all the time.
Well, I mean, remember during COVID, we added a form on COVID.
Right.
Yeah, it was a form on COVID. So if y'all look in your chat there, I just gave that to you. That you can use and just take that and put it in a note somewhere. Now with the new Lone Wolf, there's a place you can put this clause. I don't know where that is, but you could pull this and put it in a clause somewhere, and then you can add this clause into any form you might need, which would obviously just be the lease. Any comments on this?
No, but I do have a question. In our area, furloughs are, such a big thing. So I had a tenant who was furloughed earlier this year. And so is there any
Well, excuse my ignorance of furlough versus termination. Sherry,
what do you call it when like the government shuts down? Like, but it's not it's not going to be forever, but like when you don't get paid for.
That would
You
be
could add that
something you
to
could
it.
put in play. If a
Yeah.
government shut down, I mean, the challenge with that is landlords still have their bills to pay.
Right.
But during the COVID issues, not COVID, was it COVID? Yeah, it was during COVID. During COVID, the state set up a lot of programs where landlords could get state help through their tenant. The tenant had to apply for, like, I lost my job because of COVID. I'm forced to be at home, but they got support through the state to pay their rent, and the landlord would help them do that. There may be that type of a thing, and that's a good question. We can do a search here is like rent support in Fairfax County. Or
If they're furloughed, do they not get unemployment or something? I know that's not the
No,
same.
my client didn't get anything when she was furloughed.
Yeah,
Fortunately, her landlord was.
There is eligibility for emergency rental assistance in Fairfax County. They have to make 80% of the area median income rental rate, up to 150% of the fair market rent, up to 4 months of assistance and maintenance. So this is something that also we can point to people that are afraid they may lose their job. Say, I get that, but there are these programs available. What I don't know is how long does it take to get it? You know, you're in a 3-bedroom unit, you could get up to 442.53 of rent. So this is something that would be good to point people to if they feel like they're about to get loss of job or furloughed. But what I'm looking at for us is what can we put in the lease? And we might put this in here. And you could add the tenant has to have shown that they applied for Fairfax County Emergency Rental Assistance and were denied, or Prince William County, or wherever they're. I'm sure every county has some sort of assistance. The only other thing would be, call into the county and say, hey, how long does this usually take? You know, I got someone, they lose a job, they apply to you. How does that work? Because up to 4 months of rent assistance, that's pretty good. So that's the one thing I wanted to look at was the addendum language that you could put into a lease on job loss. Okay. Any other
Wouldn't
questions
that be
on
a
that?
red flag? Wouldn't that be a red flag for the landlord though? Like I'd be
Possibly.
kind of like,
Yeah, but it's a
why?
concern for the tenant. You know, what if
I
I lose
know.
my job? Do I still have to keep paying rent, or can I terminate the lease? Can I move somewhere else? It's up to them. I've got 2 agents right now that are looking for this language. And thank you for helping
Okay.
me put it together. So I'll be sending this to them. And what I found in the lease was this paragraph 24 early termination. And so it's an addition that I'm putting on of transfer of all other tenants. Okay. So that's where I got that language from. All right. The other item was options for the buyer. Anything else on that before I go to the contract? Okay. This one is about options for the buyer if to void a contract or at least hold seller accountable on items in the contract that they would not be able to get because they don't have a certain addendum or contingency. What are some things can y'all think of right away that the buyer could use to void the contract or hold the seller on the dime without the like contingencies they have are home inspection, radon, um, um,
Appraisal.
yeah, appraisal. They've waived these things. But what else do they have in the contract that's already agreed to that they could use that's holding the seller um, not at bay, but holding them to a certain language that there was not necessarily an addendum? I can think of a few right now.
What the disclosures?
You mean something that would allow them out of the contract outside of the 3 contingencies?
Out of or power to request something to be done that they didn't have an addendum on.
Oh, well, if there's a HOA violation, they have to do that.
Yep. Right. So if we're talking the property condition, if there's an HOA violation, that's not a home inspection item. And I also tell people when you get the HOA violation, I hold that it's separate. Some would say don't put it in the home inspection because then you could negotiate it away. But I would submit even if you negotiated it away and then you get the HOA documents later, if it comes up in the HOA documents, that puts it back on the table because of, and let's go to that paragraph.
When it says it's the seller responsibility.
Almost. Title, paragraph 19. Seller will pay any special assessments and will comply with all orders or notices of violations of any county or local authority, condo unit, HOA, property owner association, or actions in court. So this is already tying their hands to fix things in the HOA documents. So if you have a home inspection and you've asked for the front porch light to be replaced or repaired, and they say, no, we're not going to do that, and you sign off on that, and then the HOA document saying this has to be repaired, I would say this is back on the table because it now has removed that from the home inspection. This is also why I want the seller to order those HOA documents early. We sign the listing paper, go get the HOA documents. Quit waiting around. Okay. So this is one of them here. The other is you can't get out, but property maintenance and condition inspections. Except as otherwise specified here, seller will deliver property free and clear of trash and debris. And this is the line, substantially the same physical condition as determined as of, if you're waiving, as of date of offer. This is why you walk through the house, you turn on all the light bulbs, you turn on all the lights, you run all the toilets, you run all the sinks, you look underneath the sink, you raise a few windows, you do the sliding glass door, you turn on the microwave, you turn on the oven, you open up the fridge, you look at the freezer. I would not run the dishwasher or the washing machine, but you could turn on the dishwasher with a short cycle. The washing machine, I don't know. If there's some kind of issue and the water flows out, you've kind of damaged their property now, and they could claim, well, there was nothing wrong with it before. So anything with water like that, I'd be concerned about. But I would not have any problem flushing toilets and turning on sinks. But do all of that, and now you have a record. These are all the items I found. But also in the contract mode, when you do all those things and look with a critical eye, knowing you're going to waive the home inspection, you make a list, a punch list. And I mean, I had a punch list. Well, I mean, it was pretty long. I've had two or really long punch list, meaning we've agreed already, even though I'm having a home inspection or I'm waiving a home inspection, as part of this contract, you're going to fix these 5 or 10 items. And they fixed them. Didn't take any of them off both times. So that's something you can do for the buyer who's waiving everything, and how they can stay in play to get the seller to do some things, even though they don't have a contingency. So
Can I add
one
to
is
that?
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I've had circumstances where either the buyer has waived everything, or like it's a inspection to void only.
Yeah.
And then, we find stuff and my buyers are kind of like, crap, like now what do we do? And I'm kind of, I always tell them, like, guys, everything is negotiable. Like if these sellers don't want it to fall through, even though you said to void only, that means that we weren't inspecting like enormous red flags. So like, yes, we can still go back. And I feel like sometimes, maybe some of the newer agents or whatever, like need to know to explain to your buyer that like, yes, you should do that if you need to win the offer.
Right.
But like everything is negotiable, even if you've said that it's not negotiable, 5 minutes ago.
I wholly agree with Emma. You're not being unethical because you come back after you, like right here, what she's talking about, this is right here, paragraph 9. If contract is not contingent on home inspection, but I'm going to walk through it. This is the information only inspection. All right. You go through there and you find some wacko problems. It's not that the buyer's not on the dime here. They can't cancel because of home inspection, but that's where they can say, hey, you know what? I know we're inspection only, but we at least want to ask this. You got these issues downstairs. Okay. But they get time to go through it and look at the property. But it does say nothing in this paragraph creates a contingency. What some agents will do is this beginning date and ending date of when they can do this inspection, they don't actually put a date there. And I had this done with me, and I thought that was pretty clever. It says begins after the HOA review period expires. And I remember it because I was the buyer agent. I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. And I said, and I just crossed out and said, no later than X, because I didn't want them to hold us hostage of late coming HOA documents. So, we're under contract today. We're going to close September 7th, and I've agreed to this. And they say after review period, and it gets to September 1st. I still don't have the HOA documents. I'm like, so I'm going to put an ending date here. All right, get the HOA documents by the 21st of August. If not, that's when we go in and do our report, because they don't want me to do this inspection for information purposes only. And you know where I'm going with this. And then I have no way out but the HOA documents, and bang, I'm out. Okay. Does that make sense? But generally you're saying beginning on and ending on. So that's the other thing, is the HOA violations. I think we talked about that earlier. The disclosure forms,
Yes.
if you don't receive the disclosure forms, the HOA forms, by a certain date, you can pull out. Not a certain date, if you just don't get them. I haven't gotten them, we're out of here. Okay. So seller represents the property is located. It is subject to the provision. The unit is located in a condo. All right. The purchaser or purchaser agent has the right to request an update of such resale certificate, and the right to receive the resale certificate, and the right to cancel. All right, are waived if not. All right, got it. The provisions, I'm looking for the language here. Here it is. 3, at any time prior to settlement, if the resale certificate is not delivered to buyer or buyer's agent, they can cancel. At any time prior to settlement. You got that? I can cancel if, 1, this is the time I'm getting it. This is what do I have? The provision, the buyer cancellation under the following circumstances. Within certain number of days that for date of ratification, if I got those documents before ratification. So let's say I got them on Friday and we ratify on Sunday.
Mhm.
Well, how many days after date of ratification? 3, 4, 5, whatever you put in
Yeah.
there. But the countdown doesn't start till date of ratification, even though I received them beforehand. Okay. 2 is what we normally operate with. I get them in my hand. I got 5 days. I got 3 days. 3 is when they putz around and don't get it to me. That's what it didn't say here, but that's what I call this one. The putz around and fail. At any time prior to settlement, if the resale certificate is not delivered to buyer or buyer's agent, they can get out. So this is why you want it in their hands ASAP. Even if you're not playing around as a seller and you've got this thing in and you've got it coming on a rush job and it's been 2.5 weeks and they still haven't delivered it, you're running the risk of these guys walking. Okay. So that's the HOA factor. The other is back down in title. And what this says is that seller will convey title that is good, marketable, and insurable with no additional risk to premium to buyer or non-standard exceptions. If it gets to a point where and this is what I've had this happen a couple of times, where there is a land problem, like a fence is over the fence is over the line, or the deed does not show the pipe stem right of way. That title is now not marketable, is not good, marketable, and insurable. So if they can't deliver a good title, you could have a standard to get out on void. Okay. So you could void because, well, you cannot deliver me a good title. I'm out of here. There's a lien on it from somewhere in the past. The seller didn't know about it and they can't get it cleared. This would be another way that you can get out of it.
Is there any way you can get out of it if they didn't pull permits before work was done? If you find out after the fact that they didn't get the work permitted before it was done, is that an option to get out?
I don't know if that's a voidable event, but it definitely is a place where you could push And I know is Emma still here? Yeah, Emma and I worked through one of these where they did not have permits and they had to go get permits. And we just kept, and remember, what's my pattern on an addendum? What do you want? When do you want it? And what's the consequence if you don't get it?
On the deadline.
Yeah, and the deadline. And they could not meet the deadline. Emma, are you there? You want to talk about that?
She's there.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? The one in Woodbridge?
No, I thought it was Falls Church where the permits, the builder was redoing the property. Your buyer wanted it, but your buyer had their own deadline financially because of the shutdown. Remember that?
I don't think that was me.
Okay. Here's what it was. Oh, you know what? It wasn't. All right. Here's what it was. Sorry.
How
Not
come
that
you
I
don't
think,
I'd
remember?
love
I
to
don't
like
just,
spew
yeah, I
some
don't,
nonsense for you, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
I don't think troubled deals and think of Emma. All right. That's not what's going on here, but,
Are you sure?
no, yeah, right. No, what this
No,
was is
no, you
they
think
were,
of Melanie.
yeah, yeah. So what this was is the buyer, they were in the midst of the employment of the shutdown. And so they had a deadline. Let's say it was Friday or Thursday, and they knew that the lender was going to recheck their employment if they didn't get closed by Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was
Mm,
Thursday. And they knew they were going to, and the lender was telling them when they come in and see that you're on furlough, you're not going to be qualified for this house. So we gave we got an addendum with the seller. You got to get these permits and show us that you have the occupancy permit. They can move in by Wednesday. And if you don't, then the buyer may void by Thursday.
'cause they
And
had
this had been
to.
going on for weeks. The guy had been like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. And he kept
Oh, yeah.
not getting them to us. And we did not tell him the reason we needed that hard deadline was because we knew the buyer was going to lose their eligibility if they didn't close by Thursday. And lo and behold, Wednesday come, no permits, we canceled.
Did you?
We had
Okay.
to because they did not have a financing contingency, see? And so we used this other issue to get out because we didn't have a financing contingency because they were competing and didn't have a financing contingency.
How'd the
But then in
seller
the
react
midst
to
of all
that?
that, yeah, but in the midst of all that, well, the seller had been postponing for a couple of weeks.
So he kind of knew you were going to do that.
He didn't know, but he was begging us not to. And I'm like, look, we can't. We're done. See ya. Bye.
Oh,
And it was in
gosh.
the writing and we did it and we got him out. And so we rescued the buyer from not being able to buy the house that they wanted to get by using something else besides financing to get them out of the contract. And it was because the seller was not moving quick enough on the permits.
Anthony, out of curiosity, do you think if you had shared the reason, the seller would have, done what he needed to do quicker? Like, or because I guess I don't know. He probably just
I don't
maybe
know.
thought you guys were
We
not
felt
bluffing,
like
but
to reveal that would not have been in the best interest of the buyer. That's what we felt.
Okay.
Because I don't remember now why, but we just knew at the time we can't let them know this is why we're getting out because we have no financing contingency. But we do have a contingency that they do not have an occupancy permit, and we got them to agree. But we did the what I want when I want it, and here's the consequence if I don't get it. And they got consequented. So, so there you go. All right.
God.
That's all I got. Do y'all have anything? It's a lazy August Friday afternoon. We're done in 32 minutes.
Well, maybe for some of you.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
I know as soon as we hang up on it.